Our school buildings are getting a failing grade. It may just be that we have to build anew because we can't put a Band-Aid on it, and that's going to be part of this process.
You prepared to talk to those parents about that?
Absolutely, and listen to them.
That was the governor recently on school buildings. I play that for you because on the radio yesterday, Kobi Dennis talked about infrastructure and the schools being a high priority. Congratulations on your decision to run for office.
Oh, thank you.
Great to have you. True?
True.
That's your main priority at this point?
Oh, it's one of my main. I would probably say number two. Communities first. Community, infrastructure, and then I would say services.
All right, infrastructure and the couple $100 million that Mayor Lorza has floated as the need, and perhaps bonding and all that kind of stuff, kind of got dwarfed by the state's study on renovating all the school buildings. Right. The basics seem to be at about $600 million statewide, and to get them into competitive places, $2.2 billion. Where do you see all that fitting in if this is going to be a high priority for your campaign? Well,
it's a very tough situation, Dan, and what I'd really like to see is them coming, and what the governor just alluded to, is talking to the people. You know, the solutions are not overnight, but talking to the people, I think that's the job of the mayor, and I think that's the job of public officials, to talk to the people, to see, explain to them how it has to be fixed and what's the process and so on and so forth. Not to just promise, make all these blank promises, because I think that's what happened. And I think promises were made that the infrastructure would be fixed in order to get in office, and then once they got in office, now they're
so you think you think he's tardy on the infrastructure situation?
And a few, yeah, and a few
you supported him in his last campaign.
Absolutely, I believe that I'm actually at.
And so, what happened?
Just the fact that over time things were just being thrown to the side. A lot of ideas that he came out very, excited about, and rallying people around him about different ideas about policing, about fire, about services, about infrastructure, about all of these things. They just never came to fruition.
Why do you think that happened?
I don't know. I don't know, because I'm not there. I wasn't promised to be there or nothing, but I just wanted to be at the table with the people, for the people. Never wanted a job or anything like that.
You've had a student, you've had a civic activist resume. You still are, working in the public sector.
Right.
So this has been your thing. I mean, basketball projects and all that kind of thing have always been kind of a, that's your thing. And so it was bubbling around that you might be running for mayor for a while. What put you over the goal line and caused you to do this Facebook Live announcement over the weekend?
Well, I just think, I really, the political scene right now is just, to me, in Rhode Island and in the nation, in my opinion, it's just, a little crazy, a little hazy. I think I want to get the people back involved and back invigorated about policy, about politics in general. So I think somebody like myself coming in, stepping in, getting the people ready and riled up about doing the right thing again. I want to come in as a new candidate that's going to come in with new and fresh ideas and really just be about the people.
But what are those new and fresh ideas?
They're going to come from the people, Dan. For the first time, I'm going to listen. A candidate's going to listen to the people first. I know it seems a little.
Kobi, I've been around this business so long, and if I had, there's no doubt you've got the timber to lead. I've seen it, but I'm going to listen to the people becomes this space of ambiguity, and what do you what do you promise, what do you deliver, what do you stand for, what can voters sink their teeth into? I mean, just a chat room is no way to run a candidacy.
No way to run a full candidacy, but it is a way to get started on letting the people think about what they really want from the candidate. I think going in promising a bunch of things, Dan, I think that's the cliche. I think if I go, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to fix the schools, and I'm going to fix the potholes, and I'm going to, do all these things, when I really can't promise all those things.
You think Lorza just had a big appetite and found out that things are a lot tougher than they are to actually get things done?
I think so.
Are you being careful to a fault not to promise programming and expenditures and restructure on any kind of level of specificity because you know what kind of albatross it is to run the city? Right,
not just for Mayor Lorza, but even past campaigns. I just think a lot of promises are made, and that's when the people, I think the people, we have very smart people in Providence. I think if they understand the process and they realize that it takes time for things, to come to fruition, I really believe that they'll be okay with a lot of the, pitfalls that happens when you're the leader of a city.
It's a very expensive city to run.
Exactly.
It's sitting on the brink constantly of bankruptcy. The Mayor Lorza has suggested that's never an option. Others with credibility have suggested it is an option to kind of wash away some debt and to restart. It's a double-edged sword. You get a reputation for bankruptcy. It's hard to overcome that. What is your financial acumen to actually take a look at this huge, huge financial operation?
No, that's one of the things that I'm definitely not afraid to say to the people out there. My financial acumen is not as high as it probably should be at this point. I'm going to surround myself with people that are ready for this, that people that I've been talking to over the last year and a half. Plenty of different ideas, plenty of different platforms we're going to go with, but that's going to be up to me in the end to pick that. And when I roll it out, you'll be one of the first people to know.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk about the politics of this. They're deep. Stay with us. The great city of Providence, Kobi Dennis, a longtime activist in the city, has decided he wants to be the mayor, run for mayor. You know, I've always asked candidates for important office an important question and try to create a distinction. Do you want to be somebody or do you want to do something? Do you want to be the mayor or do you want to do something?
Well, that's a great question because I've been, going back and forth with myself saying, man, being a community leader, promising a lot of things, being able to deliver and give things away all the time, things for free, things like I got to spend the next few months trying to differentiate that person from being that community guy to the mayor. So I definitely want to do something. I already believe I'm, a great leader and, a good example to the young people and a great dad and all so on and so forth. But now I'm going to change my position and I'm going to do it with the help of others. That's why my entire campaign is collective leadership. And I think my job is to find the people that can help me put things in place.
We have Hispanic mayor, second in a row. We haven't had a black mayor in the city of Providence.
I was looking.
The population runs anywhere from 7 to 12%, depending on how you count registered voters in the African American community. The Hispanic community is the largest community of minority in the city. How do you view that dynamic? I mean, I hate to create a racial political conversation, but I mean, the racial politics are part of the game.
No, it's going to come up.
In a way. So, has he lost some of that community, do you think?
Oh, I think
you're going to have to sell. Listen, you're going to have to sell people regardless of what their racial or ethnicity is. So let's not make it too prominent. But I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I mean, there's that component here. Has he let that community down?
Oh, in the words of the people, that I see every day.
In what
absolutely.
way specifically?
Just the false promises, the things that didn't follow up, the things that haven't been finished yet. The chief, the fire, police. We can go on and on. The meters, all these different things that affect the everyday.
The parking meters.
Parking meters.
It's got to be one of the. I don't understand.
And I did want to say, Dan, the 7 to 12%. I think you're relating to the state. For African Americans. In Providence, it's definitely
is a higher number.
Oh, it's at least 25%.
Okay, so you know what? Maybe
it's the state. That's 7%.
My research was a mistake in there.
Oh,
well, that's a bigger chunk of change.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I'm saying? In terms of voters.
Yeah.
Money. You start with nothing.
Zero. I saw the
He's
big
got
zero.
$438,000 in his campaign
account. Yeah, it's 518,000 now, I believe. I'm checking.
He's checked me off. I'm asking about his financial acumen, and he's got me on 2 numbers already. So
trying to let you know.
Kobe 2, York nothing at this point. All right, so he's got $500,000. That makes it worse.
He had a golf tournament the other day.
Where are you going to get any scratch?
I'm just working. A lot of people are really underestimating my ability to get some money. I'm saying scratch like you to get the funding. I'm going to start my campaign out pretty slow, third week of this month, and then after that I'm going to ramp up and have, fundraisers everywhere. I'm going to go unconventional. We're going to barbershops, hair salons, have listening parties, places. We're going to people's homes.
But you do realize that you just can't run a social media grassroots campaign. You got to spend some dough.
I got to spend some dough. The mailings, the knocking on the doors, the yards, hundreds
do you
of
have
people
a 6-figure target in mind?
I put it out yesterday. So I said I need about 250 to 300,000 to compete.
And you got, unfortunately, you got to get a program to raise that money in order to be able to be competitive here.
Dan, people think that I, just came on Facebook the other day and was like, hey, I'm running for mayor. It made it look like that because I was very casual, but been thinking about this for a while, at least the last year and a half or so.
The politics are interesting. Sometimes it's like a Pac-Man game. The eventual winner does so in Providence by gobbling up the competition, sometimes buying off the competition. There's been a little bit of history here in terms of, get out of the race, I'll give you a job. Are you committing not to work for the Elorza administration?
I can say that.
In go. I mean, you work in the grant world as from the state auspice right now, correct?
Absolutely.
So you're going to commit that you won't be taking any jobs moving forward after November 2018.
No jobs, no deals. It's not out there. All the candidates that just came out, and I'm hearing about 5 other candidates are all starting to ramp up and come out now.
Counselors,
representative.
Old John Lombardi might get in the old race.
Lombardi, they're all coming in. I love all those guys. Are great guys, but I'm definitely not taking a job. I've been offered jobs in the past, from different administrations and different people, and I've always said that's not what I'm here for.
The icky part about the city of Providence is still a corruption culture that lingers around it. And we just had the city council president, operating for the longest time with election faux pas, and then of course, you've got the second councilor who's just waited there with the obvious. I mean, it seems to me that you've got I don't know that Mayor Elorza, he's responded accordingly, but he hasn't led the charge against the atmosphere.
No, oversight and responsibility.
Will you do that?
Absolutely.
Do you see that as an important thing?
I see it as holding people accountable.
Speak to me
very
about
important. So surrounding myself, and I think it's all about him surrounding himself with the wrong people. He's a great guy. I'm going to say that because I did get people to support him. But once you get in, you surround yourself with these people that are not going to hold you accountable, then how could you dare hold someone else accountable? And that's what's been happening. I think with these council people, I think all this mistrust that's going on, I think a lot of the times it's the people around you. If they're going to keep cheerleading for you and not really just saying, hey, that's not the right thing to do, even though you shouldn't be telling grown men that you shouldn't be stealing, it didn't happen. And I think the community has trusted these people for so long, they're almost doubtful. He looks like me. He's been around. He comes, shakes hands, and and talks to the people all the time. He has to be honest. Well, I think we saw otherwise lately. All
right. Well, listen. We'll hold you accountable for specificity as we go, but we still have months and months before it gets into real season. So listen, I think it's another breath of fresh air in the political world to have you in the game, and we wish you the best of luck. And we'll ask you the tougher questions as we get closer to the thing, all right?
I appreciate it.
It's good to see you, man.
Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you coming on board. All right, when we come back, we've got some big stuff for the rest of the week. We'll tell you what it is when we come back. Stay with us. Working on some logistics, but we hope to get Peter Nerona, the new candidate for Attorney General, former U.S. Attorney, into the program this week or early next. We're going to meet the president of CCRI. A lot of turbulence over there at the school these days. We'll see what she thinks about that and the overall picture of collegiate education in Rhode Island. That's Friday night, so we'll fill in the gaps as we go. Don't forget, 3 o'clock tomorrow on WPRO. Keep praying for those folks in Vegas. Thanks for watching. Good night.